Hello, everybody, and welcome to NinjaChris Silly History. And in this month's show, we are going to discuss the history of the well known sport that we call football. And we are the home of football here in England. Even though that's not exactly where it started, because we're gonna go to China, of course, because that's where the idea of the game came from, all the way from China back around the Han Dynasty area. So we're looking back in like 206 BC sort of area where they had a sport that they called Kuju, where it's essentially a kind of passing game, but it kind of varies of how they did it. Obviously, we weren't there back then, so some of it's a bit speculation. But mostly it was just a load of groups of people and they just passed the ball around to each other and they had their own little games. And it was sort of a game of keep uppies as well, a bit like street football, stuff like that. Showing off their skill, trying to stay upright and stuff like that, or your technical ability. They also did a version where there was a board in between where you had to keep kicking it over the fence, or there's a circle in the middle, and if you got it in there, you I think scored a point, or it was a goal. That was their equivalent of a goal. Just kick it on a hoop. But either way, football essentially started in China with a game called a kuju or kuju. I'm not fully sure of how you say it, but is how I'm saying it, at least. And that kind of carried on through until we got to about the fourth or fifth century, when some guy emperor came in and thought, I don't want any of that. And to literally add insult to injury, anybody who was still caught playing the game, he actually chopped their legs off so they wouldn't play, because that's serious restrictions. I mean, fair enough, just tell them not to do it, but wow, chop the legs off. For goodness sake, that is taking things to the extreme. But I suppose back then in those times, it's kind of how it worked when you did that sort of thing. Like, mad. And following that, though, Japan also had their own sort of style they did as well, and they called it Kamari. So that was kind of influenced by the Chinese one, because, well, they're right next door, so they're going to copy a little bit. But this was more modern times. It was like 794 to 1185 AD. So we're in the modern eras and stuff, modern-ish, going into the Middle Ages. So it sort of picked up a bit better, and this is where we started leading into the medieval Middle Ages type football. So it kind of became more of a mob football. So all of that sort of thing. Mob, Shrove Tide. They even called it folk football. So in some cases, but either way, there wasn't as such rules, and that really came into flow when Henry the Second was on the throne. So we're looking about 1170, I think, give or take, around that era. I know Henry the Second was on the throne from 1154 to 1189. So anytime around that era. So 1170 is kind of in the middle of Henry II's reign. So it's about right. But either way, that was the start of the medieval football, where they just essentially used it as to bring the community together. They essentially just got a ball and blew up pigs a pig's bladder, and then started kicking it around. And well, because there was no actual football pitch, they just carried on kicking it around all over the place. Oh, and sometimes they carried it as well, because, well, it was a mob style situation. And the reason why we have a Shrovetide one was because it was something that we did on like Shrove Tuesday. It was a 2-day game, and I mentioned the Shrovetide football because, well, they do it in Ashbourne Derby, so I'm gonna stick to my home ones, and they try and replicate the history, and I've seen what it looks like to have a Shrovetide football match, and I'm like, blimey heck, this isn't a football match. They barely even kick the ball. I mean, come on. But there's hardly any rules in a Shrovetide football match. I mean, come on. And you're playing the game for 2 days, and apparently it's about the upwards and the downwards. I'm not too sure, but I think the upwards is the upper part of Ashbourne, and the downwards are, I guess, the down part of it, the lower side of it. And they all have their own goals to go for, and apparently they have to go down to where their goal is, and they have to tap the rock 3 times or something like that. They do it however they want. I mean, I've seen them in the pool, seen them in the swimming pool. I mean, like, what? What's going on here? Is this meant to be football? But the thing is, football didn't really have any rules. It was just you got the ball and you tried to get it towards the goal. But I mean, we came into more modern times. Obviously, we had this situation where it came on, and now Shrovetide football has become quite a popular thing. So they want to hold on to history, and that's good for them. There was also another one that I found out about, and plumbing heck, that's even worse. It's even worse, but they play it on the idea of mob football, and it's something that they do in Florentina, and it's called Calcio Storico, however you say it. And that match, I saw videos of that as well, and that's like, there is no rules for that one, apart from banging it. You can't punch him in the back of the head, but you literally can just have a fight. It's one of the most dangerous ones. You can guarantee you're going to get injured if you're going into that one. But it's between 4 teams usually, because there's 4 colours in the Florentine, and I think the colours were red, blue, green, and white, because they did it. So if you mix the 2 colours together, you get the purple Florentine flag. And yeah, I guess because I'm looking from the outside situation, I just see it as a load of people beating each other up, and then somebody gets the ball and runs it and puts it in a basket at the other end of the pitch. Just seems like chaos to me, but theoretically it is. But that's what mob football was, so they are technically recreating it. But by actually saying, go on, beat the living daylights out of that person, go on. To be fair, I wouldn't be wanting to do that. And I've seen that it takes a lot of skill and a lot of training to get that sorted out. So yeah, not really something I would enjoy going into. And plus, I'm not from Florentina, so yeah, not gonna get into that. But it's a sport that started off in the Renaissance time, so that's about 15th, 16th century time. So I'll bring that up because it's around that time, and they keep doing it, and they're carrying on doing it. It's just something that they do in Italy, and they love doing it. So I'm not going to argue with it. If it works for them, then go for it. But now we're going to move into a bit more modern, when we actually started having football teams and stuff like that. So our first football team that we ever had was Sheffield Football Club. And not Sheffield United. This is Sheffield Football Club. So Sheffield United didn't exist until like the 1880s time. So they wasn't actually developed as a club. And Sheffield Football Club do still exist, but they're way down in the non-leagues there. So you'd have to literally dig for Sheffield Football Club nowadays. But one time or another in 1857, it was the start of having football clubs. And there were also the invented Sheffield rules football, which actually gave the football some more of the modern rules. Along with Cambridge rules, they kind of developed a situation where we had common thing like corner kicks and stuff like that, free kicks, kind of like to try and make it more fair. But talking of fair, they also had a thing that was called a fair catch, which was I found very interesting. But it's called a fair catch because you catch the ball and then you put it on the floor and just continue. But football back then wasn't exactly how it is now, obviously. We didn't really have the full-on rules. But it was fair for them. There was no actual length of how long the pitch was. The pitches were terrible and muddy and all that stuff. So it wasn't as flat and clean as we've got now. It wasn't like rolling out a carpet. It was just you found whatever piece of land you could that was open, and you just set up shop and just had a game of football. So yeah, that's how it worked. Then when we had the Football Association eventually came around in 1863, which it was inspired by the Cambridge rule system, which is where we get most of our modern rules today, where we have, because you believe it or not, goalpost, it was just two sticks in the ground. There was no crossbar, so obviously if you hit wide, that's a miss. But if you hit anywhere that's above, it doesn't matter how high up you hit it. So hitting it over the bar, because there's no bar, it's a goal. So you can shoot it into the sky if you like. As long as it goes over them two sticks and in between that area, it's a goal. I know. It's like we always felt sorry for the goalkeepers whenever that happened, because good luck trying to reach it if somebody decides to shoot it up there. But also, we've got to remember that them footballs back then were like kicking a rock, or so I've heard. It's so good luck trying to get it up in the sky. Oh, and the thing is, there was no goalkeepers either. The only way you could stop it was basically whoever from the opposing team was near the goal at the time became the goalkeeper. And they didn't have goalkeeping gloves either. They didn't come around until like the late 20th. Didn't come around till quite later, towards the end of the century. So you've got to respect them, especially when it's quite a solid ball. Yeah, it was literally, are you closest to? Yep, you've suddenly inherited the goalkeeper role. But then they could become an attacker once they get the ball going. You got to remember they've got to run a long way, because our standard pitches nowadays are a lot smaller compared to what them pitches were like. And you never knew what size the pitch was going to be. And nobody had an idea of when the ball went out of bounds, because there was so many arguments about that. They didn't really have time because the pitch was so big. They didn't really have time to work out. But this is where the Cambridge rules situation existed now, and it developed into a rule book for the Football Association. And now we have set up of a football pitch, drawn lines and everything like that. And we had it wasn't a throw-in, it was a kick-in at that point. But they eventually invented the throw-in, which is essentially the same idea. Ball goes out of play, you kick it or throw it, depending on when we are. There's a lot of interesting stuff about football back in the back in the 19th century, I guess. But eventually, things became more clear. And I need to drink. So much fun. Let me just have a quick look and see if I can say hello to people. Hey, Anna. Philly Mouse. Hey, Mowley. How you doing? Yes. Derby County. I was wondering if that was going to come up. He came up very quickly, that did. I knew you weren't going to mess around with that one, were you? Hey, Sam. How you doing, mate? Good to see you here. Good to see everybody who comes along. See if more people file along in a bit. But, yeah, football's gone through a lot. We also had some of the first trophies as well during that time. So once we had the Football Association sorted, we had a couple of cups going on. We had a Uden Cup, which was using the Sheffield rules, and the champions of that cup was Hallam, and they beat Norfolk 2-0. So there was loads of different team names back then, and I've not really heard of them, or they're probably dropped down the league system. So yeah, I don't know much about those. And then a year later, we had another cup called the Cromwell Cup, which was in 1868. And the winners of that one was the Wednesdays, or as we now know them as Sheffield Wednesday. They won the match against Garrick 1-0. So well done them. Never saw the game, but I trust it was great. I trust it was good. Especially if they've got to run up and down them long pitches. Oh, and they also invented the thing where after they score a goal, you had to switch sides. So imagine having to do that after every single goal was scored. I bet they just bothered not. I bet a few of them just bothered not to score because they couldn't be bothered to run from one end of the pitch to the other, with them being so big. The pitches were back then. It's like, I ain't running that distance. Look at that. I think the football pitches back then were about 3 times the size of what they are now. So massive, absolutely humongous football pitches. I wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere near that. But the Football Association thankfully came in and sorted that out and gave everybody specific lengths and how big you wanted the pitch and everything. So that was it there. And then you followed that rule book and how you did things. Then we eventually had FIFA, the International Federation of Association Football. Or it had some French name as well, the Federation International Football. I don't know. I can't remember, but it's what we nowadays call FIFA. Why couldn't they have just left it at International Federation of Association Football? So much easier to say, and that came into fruition in 1904. Because they wanted to get international and everything like that. Because we had international football still. Because our first international match was in 1872, where England played Scotland. And after all this while of trying to bring international teams together, the first international game was 0-0. About right, innit? I'm just hoping there weren't many spectators because that would have been annoying. But yeah, again, the pitches again in 1872, they were still blooming long. So probably by the time they got to the goal, they probably passed out. probably forgot what they were meant to do. So whenever you walk a long distance, you're probably like, what was I meant to do? Oh, look at them 2 sticks there. Am I meant to throw this for me dog? No, hang on, I meant to put the ball through there. Ah, nuts, the guys come and stole the ball from me now. Then they go and run down the other end of the pitch. They must have got a massive workout. I mean, if it worked. At the time, they didn't know any better though, did they? They just did what they had. But, yeah. Also had the first FA Cup around that time as well, in 1872. It was the 1871-1872 around, because it started in 1871, but the final was in 1872, and the winners of that was Wanderers FC, and they won it 4-1 against the Royal Engineers. Now, these teams have been disbanded, obviously, by now. I think the Wanderers are now under a different name, but maybe it's like Bolton or Wolverhampton, and wherever they may be. But yeah, that was the first ever FA Cup match. The Women's FA Cup didn't come until a century later in 1970, where it was Southampton versus Stuart and Thistle. And Southampton won it 4-1. So that was the Women's FA Cup. It's good that we're getting the women's game more into things again now. I mean, women's football's been around since the 1880s, but it didn't really have much viewing. And if I believe in like 1921, they were trying to ban women's football, but obviously came back because they had the Women's FA Cup in 1970. But they had quite a nice break between that. But we were quite a sexist nation back then, when we thought football was only for the men, really, and we kind of went against the fact. But women can really play football, and I wasn't knocking it. If I was back then, I probably wouldn't be too bothered. Probably wouldn't know what football was back then either. They also did that sort of stuff during the World War as well. So they also played football. They kind of did it in between battles and stuff. They just had a game of kick. They just had a kick around, just played full football. And they didn't have any big tournaments like World Cups or stuff like that. Leagues and stuff were suspended and everything, but they were still happy to just, while they were waiting for their battle, they just had a kick around in them. Some of them even had a kick around with the opposing side, and it's kind of like, you're about to shoot each other, yet you're going to also play a game of football. There's also the issue of the fact that of conscription as well. So some of the players who were playing in the football team probably got conscripted into the army to fight the war. So they couldn't they couldn't exactly play in a football league. So they had to stop that, suspend football leagues. Obviously, back in the 1950s and stuff, football became a big thing again. They brought the football leagues back and all that stuff. But before that, I mentioned World Cups and everything. We had the first World Cup in 1930, and the winner of that was Uruguay, and they won it 4-2 against Argentina. Now, there wasn't as many football clubs back then, but I mean, England didn't take part because, well, I don't know whether we had a team or we just boycotted the whole situation because of the impending war that was going to come up. Well, Italy took 34 and 38, so they did a double, but that was Mussolini's area who won that. He was his fascist nation, so it was that time. It's kind of like, there you go, the football. Yeah, we also had now we have the Women's World Cup as well, and that didn't start until 1991, and it took place in China. And the finalists were United States and Norway. And the United States won 2-1. There you go to my American friends. You won the first Women's World Cup. You can have that one for free. Yeah, there's Sheffield Wednesday in church. Wow, what's happened with Sheffield Wednesday? Oh, Catherine, hello. How you doing? I love this. It is going to be an exciting 2026 when the game... Oh, FIFA World Cup we played in Philadelphia. Yes, they are going to America, aren't they? Yeah. Andy has a history. Well, the whole football history is with Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United, and apparently Sheffield Football Club as well, which I didn't even know existed until it did. But I found that out. It's nice things to find out. We also have, along with the World Cup, we also had the European Championship, aka the Euros, which started a bit later, and that was in 1960. And it was the Soviet Union versus Yugoslavia. It was hosted by the French, hosted in France. The Soviet Union beat Yugoslavia 2-1. But the Soviet Union was so big back then. We're actually in the Cold War at that point, so I don't think anybody wanted to mess with the Soviet Union at that point. Getting ready for the 1970 World Cup, I believe. There was a football war between El Salvador and Honduras. It was all about what was going on over in the Americas. They didn't want to lose or something. They were just fighting over stuff. Eventually, it came out as a ceasefire, but people lost their lives, and it was just one of those wars over football. You still get wars over football nowadays. You get these hooligans who come in and do all this stuff. It's just wrong that you get all that, don't you? I mean, come on. Start with hooliganism. You're coming to watch a game of football after all. This isn't Shrove Town. This isn't mob football now. What can you do with it, eh? But yeah, football's getting a lot better nowadays. It's a lot more up on itself. So yeah, there's a load of other footballs as well, which strictly aren't football, but stuff like in the USA, obviously they've got American football, so they have their own version. And American football, they still use the fair catch system, where they catch the ball. Basically, the fair catch at the end of the day is basically they'll catch the ball without anybody attacking them, so they can just catch the ball and are free to just put it on the ground, or with American football, get it and run with it, whichever situation. I've never really understood American football, no matter how much I read about it. I could never understand it fully, but it's an American sport, and well, it's very well enjoyed over there. And I know that you guys all love the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl seems to be more enjoyed for their halftime entertainment, I've noticed. But hey, whatever works for you. You also go over to places like Australia and stuff like that, because you have Aussie rules football and everything like that over there. And we found out over there in Oceania, football began in like 1841. So that's where Queen Victoria, she ended up seeing the indigenous people, because we just found Australia and we found the indigenous people playing ball games. So we assume that that's how they started playing football, and it's kind of their earliest version of the Aussie rules football. As such, there's a lot of that you'd probably find all that stuff around all over the world when we failed there, because we had Native Americans in 1586. Apparently a guy called John Davis found them up near Greenland. So that's probably like Canadian football nowadays. You probably get that nowadays, because, well, Canada obviously has their football styles and stuff. Well, the thing, rugby, yeah, well, rugby football is another variety, because essentially that's what rugby is. It's rugby football. They just separated off in the 1845. They decided they'd have the rugby union and rugby league and stuff like that. So they became separate sports, but you still sort of kick and everything. But you can't chuck forward. So in rugby, there's differences, but there's also similarities, because you do still kick the ball in rugby though. So they have like a kick-off situation. Gotta say, I've never really fully watched rugby or like that. To be fair, I'm not fully on the football at the moment, but hey ho, it is what it is. I'll watch if I can. Obviously, as you know, I listen to my team Derby County play, and Derby County as a team, they started in 1884, and they didn't wear white. Their original kit wasn't white. Can't remember what colours it was, but it was a kind of multicoloured situation. It was like yellow, red, blue. So we weren't the black and white army back then. I don't know how to put it. Either way, we were a lot more colourful back then. But around 1888 was the first official league that was set up, and it was the 1888 and 1889 season where the first league winners was Preston North End, of all teams. I don't know if I think they're still around the league somewhere. I don't know what league they're in right now. Fighting, you're right. We don't encourage fighting. I mean, it happens sometimes in football. We can't avoid it sometimes, but that's why referees came in handy. That's when the Football Association came in. We actually had referees coming in and actually officiating the game. I think we did have officials back then, but I think it was more, they had no real rules. They just kept things moving. So it must have been very, very awkward back then to keep a game going on. But we're going to love football. A lot of people love football nowadays. And, well, I love to watch occasionally. If Derby are ever on TV, well, I try and watch it. But there's loads of other stuff going on as well. So we'll try and carry on with it. We've also got European club football specifics, like, because in 1954 we had the Union of European Football Association, or as we usually call it, UEFA. So that they came about in 1954. And then a year later, they decided that they were going to come up with the European Cup in 1955. And up until 1960, Real Madrid were practically owning that, at least until the 1960s, where I think one of the Dutch teams took over. Can't remember exactly. And all the way, that stayed as it went through till 1993. And then you might have heard this one because this one's the most common one, the UEFA Champions League. Because, well, it started off as the European Cup. I actually think Derby County did all right in that at one point, but I haven't got them results too clearly right now. But either way, that's how our UEFA Champions League came. And the first winner of the UEFA Champions League was Marseille in 1993. And obviously, it's still going now. We've also got a second tier. In 1971, it started off as the UEFA Cup in 1971. And believe it or not, the first winner of it was Tottenham Hotspur. So, yeah, that was an interesting one. But, hey, Tottenham were obviously good back then. But now, people know the UEFA Cup as the UEFA Europa League, which is what it became in 2009. And the first winner of it being called the Europa League was Atletico Madrid. Which is good for them. Yep. And then in 2021, to be honest, I've not actually seen this, but it might be one of those that's behind closed doors or situation. Or if you dig through the TV channels, you might be able to find the game. But they invented the third tier of European football, and it's called the UEFA Conference League, and they started that in 2021. But hey, it makes sense though, because I'm guessing if you fail in the second tier, you still get a chance to win something. You drop to the third tier. Well, yeah, there it is. Hopefully you have more chance. But I don't know who won the 2021 or between them, but I know somebody's obviously won it, and well, it's obviously working because they've kept it for the last 4 years, and that, so it's fair enough with me. They also have the UEFA Super Cup, which started in 1973, which is basically a special match that they usually have on the next year. It's basically the winner of the previous season's Champions League and the winner of the Europa League, where they face off against each other. It's kind of like the Community Shield in English football. The champion of the Premier League plays the winner of the FA Cup. It's kind of that sort of situation, but for the European football instead. And the first winners of it was the team of Ajax. They won it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I got the name of the song as well, but I didn't note that one down. But yeah, Champions League's quite a good one because it gets everybody involved, doesn't it? Yeah. I hope everybody's changing their clocks today. We've got their clocks changed. I already changed mine. But I hope everybody's doing all right, and I wonder if anybody's got any of their own football stories. If you've got a favourite football team that you'd like to talk about, what's your favourite football team? I mean, it could be your American football team. I know that, Annie, you're probably going to love your Philadelphia Eagles, because I know they've just recently won the Super Bowl, I believe, didn't they? And you seemed quite happy about that. So quite a lot of different kinds of Barcelona. Nice. Well, they've got a fairly good history. I don't know if they're still at the top of their game, but I think they're still doing fairly well. It was when Pep Guardiola took over. I think it was in like 1994, or when he was actually playing for them. Can't remember what it was, but he joined the team, and he basically made them excellent. He gave them some sort of wake-up juice for their team, and they became even better. He kept bringing in all these great players. I mean, like Rivaldo and Ronaldo and players like that. Early 90s, yeah. I thought I heard them say it was like that. It must be 1994 then, if you say it's the Tiki Taka. Sorry, I don't know. Okay. The US women's soccer team is your favourite, since your version of football is different. You're most proud of your Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles. Well, I'm not surprised. I'd love Derby County to win a trophy at some point as well. I'd love to be able to celebrate along with you, but unfortunately, Derby are fighting their way to try and keep in the championship right now. I mean, the past few games, Derby have done pretty okay, but we've had this little break in between them. Well, for me right now, I want to see how we do on Tuesday when we've got our game, when we've come back after the international break. Is that Tiki Taka? Am I even saying that right? Or am I just sounding like a complete plonker? It's another name for a one-touch pass. Oh! Yeah, they kind of picked that one up. It's kind of like modern style of football, isn't it? Because you have players like George Best and Jordan Cruyff. They both brought in something that's called total football. Total football didn't require much passing at all. It just meant you didn't pass, you just ran through them. You did it yourself. They invented that kind of football. It's run at your defenders and just show some funky tricks and get around them. So they started doing that sort of stuff when they were at their best, and it was them started essentially just doing it on their own. Obviously, they knew how to pass the ball, and they did. They weren't that selfish. Yeah, George Best. Well, George Best just had it all, didn't he? He had the women and he had great women and great football. What could you do, eh? I did well. Thank you. More Xavi, Messi, and Iniesta. Yeah, all great players. And Messi's quit on the international football. That was his last one for Argentina. I think he's still playing. He's still playing though, wasn't it? Didn't he move to Paris Saint-Germain though? Or am I getting that completely wrong? I know somebody moved to Paris. Mbappe, maybe he did, because he's a great one for France. I know he's in there. Trying to remember everything. Oh, Jenna, hello. You're late, mate. You're late. Into Miami. It's good to have you here now. I guess you had to put Ruben to sleep then, since it's Ruben's topic, and Jana you are the dad, so you You have to be here. You had to be here, and thankfully you showed up. He was at PSG now. Oh, he's moved. Right, okay. Wait now. They always go to America. They always go to the MLS. Whenever they finish with their football, because I remember, well, Wayne Rooney obviously sticks in my mind for that one because he went and managed there, but he also played obviously he played for DC United, and then he came to us, to another DC, which was funnily enough. But it's all good. It's all good. Who do I think the GOAT is? Well, in his prime time, I would have gone for Rooney, but I think you're thinking about more the area of the winning of the Ballon d'Or. I suppose that's a tricky one because a lot of players nowadays are playing a lot differently, and the Ballon d'Or has been won by several. So Messi, it's usually been Messi versus Ronaldo when it came to the football situation, and I think they actually share their amount. I'm not trying to create any disagreements here, but you are welcome to have your own opinion, but I haven't got full on viewing of that. But I just enjoy my football, enjoy it. But I'm just so glad that football's changed over the years. I'm glad that Cambridge football became instant for their future, for our future now, when the Football Association came in 1863. It's one of the best things for football, to get modern football out there, where we actually had set pitches and everything. Ye gods, I wouldn't want to have played on them old style pitches. I wouldn't have wanted to play the medieval Shrovetide football style mob football. I wouldn't have wanted to play that, because that had no pitches at all, and they even jumped in. And I wouldn't want to jump in the river, for goodness sake, just to play football. And I saw in some of the videos of the matches, just the ball was just floating there on the water. I'm like, is somebody going to actually do something with it? And in fairness, there was hardly any kicking of the football. It was just passing it to each other. It's like, I don't want it. But but at first, when it starts, they call it a hug. It's only a hug because they're all attached to each other, trying to fight, trying to take the ball away. It's like, I'm having this one. No, you're not. My ball. Yeah, take it to the pitch. You guys. Oh, look at that. These kittens moving about. Eee. Got our favourite kittens. I don't know what they're doing right now, but they're doing it. Oh, on my neck. I'm giving it the big one again, aren't I had to mention the Premier League, yes, because that didn't exist until 1992, because it was only Division 1 was essentially the top division. Oh. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Yes, the host is going to die on the stage. The host is going to die on a live stream talking about football. Ooh, the bitter irony about that. Because they are enjoying the sunshine out in the cat. Are they? Oh, they do that, do they? Yeah, I've got a hairball. Yeah. I don't know what that was. I just had a... It's always the funny thing. You have a drink and you start coughing. It makes no sense. Then you have to have a drink to stop coughing. And then you probably start coughing again. What do you do with that, eh? I'm absolutely shattered. Is it 49, 50 minutes? Blooming heck, time's flown by. I've managed to keep this going. Okay, there's one spot I would never want to play. That Calcio Storico. I would never want to play that because that seems just like way too violent. But that one does try and focus on the medieval style, but that looked ridiculous. Though you just got the ball in your hands and just legged it. It's like a cross between rugby, football, and taekwondo. Just a boxing match. Basically, you beat the living daylights out of somebody, and the person who's running or attacking just runs past while there's a big riot on in the middle. So you're talking about having a riot. That's exactly what that football match is. A blooming riot. It's literally encouraged by the match. It's like, go on, punch him in the face, and that's not a foul in that one. I think the only rule is you can't punch him in the back of the head. And well, that's a bit of a given at that point. You can't strangle them, or can you? It's hard to say which ones you could do and which ones you couldn't do, because well, it seemed like from videos, it's like they kicked off and they all just started going at each other, even though none of them had the ball. They didn't have the ball. They just went straight for each other. It's like they already had a plan. It's like they already went, I'm going to beat you up, mate. I'm going to have you. I don't care if I'm going to score or not. But it's meant to be like a defensive tactic. I think they do that sort of thing in American football where you kind of, well, the blockers or something, you basically, as your person's running, you've got somebody there following you, knocking all the opposing players out of the way, so your running back can go straight through. Steve Smedley. Oh, you're right, Steve. It's good for you. It's good for you. It's good to say hello to you. Besides, you always told me that you weren't too keen on the football anyway, so you probably missed the boring bit. And it's good to have you here anyway. It's good to have you show up. It doesn't. Some people show up late. You can also don't forget. You can also watch it later if you want. So that's fine as well. I don't mind you doing that. Oh, I forgot to mention because, well, Jana, since you're here, the Turkic peoples actually used to have some sort of, I call it a football match, but from what it looked like, it doesn't sound like a football match to me. Apparently, they used to kick balls at each other's castles. So I'm not fully sure what that meant. It's like, is that a game of just rebound off the wall and keep kicking it? Because it's either that or the castles are really tiny or the football was really big. I don't understand how it works, but apparently that's what the Turkic people used to do in ancient times. But I don't know whether it was meant to destroy the castle, but it never said that. It just mentioned about kicking balls at the castle. Well, I've just made sure I've turned my clocks forward, so I've already done it. Because if I didn't do it before the show started, then I'd forget. Because usually after this, I usually calm down and then I just pass out. So I always give it the big one. But I just enjoy having a chat with you guys, and I'm happy with that. I just enjoy being able to talk about something that I enjoy, as in I enjoy talking football. I know the modern game is all continental and stuff now, though, isn't it? Everybody wants to show off on the dark side of football. I really don't like that. When people start playing up to the referee, it's like you get touched and you're going down like, oh, I'm dying. Please, please. I'm dying. That's it. Send him off. He tapped me. And they're all so glam. They forget that they're there to play. They forget that they're there to play a game of football. So they're just try and win in any way possible. It's not great viewing for us, but who cares? Oh, it's not really the best. You've never. Well, I wonder. I know. I never heard of kicking balls at a castle before. So if you kick a ball at a castle, you're playing Turkish football, apparently. Or it just says the Turkish peoples, not necessarily. It doesn't have to be in Turkey, because we got to think back in ancient times, there was loads of castles. Most of the castles that were back from then, they're just ruined now, or they don't exist anymore. You've got a few walls that still stood the test of time, but most of them are made of like sandstone and they just disintegrate now. So maybe it would work, but I don't know. Back then, all the balls were made of like blown up pig bladders and stuff like that. So back then, you literally had to blow up a pig. Not literally. I'm not encouraging you to go out and blowing up pigs now. Please don't do that. I mean, there's better ways to get bacon. If you want a bacon butty, just go to your local butcher's or something. It's a lot more safer. Yeah, I guess so. Pigs do fly. Well done. That was good. Very good. Oh no, the puns are coming out again. Oh no, this happened last month. This happened last month with all the puns. That's all right. Mark ain't here. He was the one who was doing all the puns, doing all the dad jokes. Yeah, pig bladders. Yeah, that's what it was. But now we've got some sort of fancy leather that we use. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate you saying. It's amazing. You've only been here 10 minutes and you're probably already laughing your head off. That's all you need with me. A few minutes, you're laughing it, and I've just got you laughing your head off. I'm just burning myself out. I'm just getting rid of some energy that I keep building up. I mean, I haven't been out anywhere today. There was no outreach or like that, so I just stayed at home and chilled out. Why do ducks have tail feathers to cover their butt quack? Oh my Lord. Oh, save me, Lord. Oh, we're at it again. Hey, he's starting late with it. Go on. Keeping the entertainment coming along. I'd love to try and find some football jokes, though. If you've got any football one-liner jokes, bring them on. Because I can't think of any at the moment. You guys seem to do just fine with it, though. But yeah, let's know kicking balls at castles anyway. That's where I left you. But yeah, they went to medieval football. I mean, it's fair enough that he had no rules, but it's good to bring a community together, though, because that's why they started doing it. At the end of the day, it was just to bring a community of people together. So they just kept running around, and then they went through to the next town, and more people joined on the gang, and they started passing the ball around and everything, and then they just carried on existing, and then you just carried on advancing in the football years, and it's all good now. Hey, where are we? Yeah. Be funny to get modern footballers playing to the original game. I reckon they last 5 minutes. I don't They're still pretty athletic, though. What is a ghost's favourite soccer position? Goalkeeper. Oh dear. Why don't grasshoppers watch soccer? They watch cricket instead. Oi. Oi, 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 oi. Oh, what are we doing here? Why was the magician the captain of the soccer team? He was the best at hat tricks. Oh my my my. Well, I wasn't expecting it. What we're honey, I'm trying to come down, I'm trying to finish the show now, but I'm right into it. But well, everybody, well, thank you for coming tonight. It doesn't matter what time you came in, you come in early, late, or whenever. I just appreciate that you come at all. You come and just say hello. If you want to catch what you missed, you just watch it back later. I know. I asked for the football jokes, or well, in your case, yes, it would be soccer and whatever. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, Sam, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow, Jana, provided you don't have to run out with your kids. But I want you to show Ruben this, and I want him to try and have a laugh, and hopefully he enjoys it. He seemed pretty excited when I told him last week, but at least he said "kill" in his way. So he sounded like he would have enjoyed it. Obviously, I'm guessing he's in bed now, so you're doing the duty for him. But I want him to see it still, to watch how much of a goofball we can be. Yeah, well. Anyway, I'm still mumbling on. Thank you everybody for showing up tonight. You've all been wonderful. And next month we're gonna look at the history of aviation. So anything that flies. Funny, we're talking about pigs flying. There we go. We're getting ready for next month. We're already getting ready. Though I don't think there's any pigs that were flying in that one. We're talking about actual flying aviation things. So yeah, thank you, and I will see you next month. And those of you who I'm at church with, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you. Goodbye. Have a good night.